Hey, what's going on guys? Nico coming today with another video. So I have been playing the game Dead by Daylight quite a lot lately. Really enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun, of course, and of course, so the main thing that I am playing, of course, is going to be Survivor. So Survivor's got quite a few perks, especially now in the current most recent update of the most recent Survivor, which will be Michaela. As recording this will be the 11th of the 1st, 2022. So we've got quite a few perks here, so we're going to get straight into it. So Ace in the Hole is going to be our first perk. Immediately going to put it in F tier. Just wanting to let you know, of course, a quick disclosure, this is 100% going to be my opinion. Don't be offended by any sort of perks that I do put in a certain tier if you would change it. This is of course my opinion only. If you would change it, please feel free to put it in the comment section what you would change. But other than that, guys, getting back to it, so we've got Ace in the Hole here. So Ace in the Hole is strictly a perk around getting add-ons. So you do in fact have another perk that's very similar, but Ace in the Hole is going to be strictly getting add-ons. When you are searching a chest itself, where you have a 100% chance for an add-on of very rare rarity or lower, and then depending on the tier itself, which will be 10, 25% or 50% chance for a second add-on of uncommon rarity or lower. So it is definitely a decent perk by all means. So in terms of actually getting items itself, it's a great perk. But in terms of usefulness throughout the actual game itself, it's not great. You could probably put it up to D at the very most, but I'm just gonna put it in F for now, and if I do need to, feel free to change it. Of course, I will end up going back and changing it. So we'll leave it there for now. So the next perk I will probably say is going to be Adrenaline. So Adrenaline itself, I am going to sit into B tier for now. I would probably say at the very most A tier. And the reasons for this, of course, is it doesn't matter whether you're an experienced survivor or not. Adrenaline itself is a end game perk, and it also uses the status effect called Exhausted. So the reason why Adrenaline is such an amazing perk, of course, is once you complete the last gen, you will instantly heal 1 health state, and you will sprint as well for 150% of your normal running movement speed. So the reason why this perk can actually be very beneficial is if you're hooked and then your teammate does the last gen and then someone comes over and unhooks you, you will get that adrenaline burst, you will instantly heal, and you will sprint at 150%. So it's a very great escape perk. The only problem is it's a end game perk, so if you don't actually complete and actually get to the end itself and you get hooked 2 or 3 times right off the start and you don't get to the end, it becomes one of those perks where you're not actually getting much use out of it. So by all means, it's an amazing perk. You could even bump it up to S tier because of how great of a perk it really is, but for now, going to sit it at B. So moving on, so Aftercare. So Aftercare is a little bit different. It's a little bit of a different perk compared to other perks out there that are very similar. So Aftercare, basically when you rescue a survivor from a hook, or who have rescued you from a hook, you can actually you can see the aura of, depending on the tier 1, 2, or 3, you can see the survivors. So there is other perks out there, but in particular this perk itself, it can be very good for getting some sort of intel for where your survivors are going to be located, etc. But for now, I'm going to sit this perk in D. But yeah. So moving on, so we've got the perk Alert. Alert is an amazing perk. It's got really great intel. So whenever the killer itself destroys a pallet or a wall, or even damages a generator, the killer's aura will be revealed to you, depending on the tier of course, 3, 4 or 5 seconds. So that's definitely quite a lot of time, so I'm going to set this perk into C for now. So it's an amazing perk. You do benefit from this perk throughout the whole entire game, so it's really great if you're, say, doing a generator and you've got your teammate on a chase. Could be even 50 meters away, could be on the other side of the map. if the killer ends up breaking a pallet that's been dropped, or breaks a wall, or damages a generator, you're going to be able to see the killer, you're going to be able to see his location, so you're going to know whether, if you have more than enough time to, say, complete the generator you're currently doing. But yeah. So, the next perk, which is any means necessary. So, basically what this perk's going to do is you see the aura of dropped pallets. Pressing and holding the active ability button for 4 seconds while standing beside a dropped pallet to reset it to its upright position. So this perk does change by its tier itself. So tier 1 will be has a 100-second cooldown, which is very long. The second one is going to be 80 seconds, and tier 3 will be 60 seconds. So if you were to get this perk up to tier 3, it would definitely be an amazing perk. Of course, this is going to be something I'm going to put into D. The reason for this is it's actually a very, very good perk. The only thing with this perk, though, is a lot of the games that I play, if I'm a survivor and I'm walking and running around, there's a lot of the times where the killer actually 9 times out of 10 for me personally will destroy the pallets. So if the pallet's been destroyed, you can't actually gain any sort of impact from this perk. So therefore it would actually be essentially be useless. So however, it's an amazing perk if the killer of course isn't actually going to be destroying all the pallets. So next perk we got on the list is going to be Appraisal. So Appraisal is starting the trial with 3 tokens. When a chest has already been opened, consume 1 token. To rummage through it for an item. Rummage through chests 40, 60, 80% faster depending on the tier. So it's a little bit of a weird perk. I'm going to set it in F tier for now. The main purpose of this perk is basically just going to allow you to search through chests quicker. And by all means, there's obviously you can see the list here. There is a lot and a lot and a lot of perks. So it's one of those things you could probably try it a few times, but you'll definitely see right away there's other perks out there that are going to be a lot more beneficial for you. Alrighty, so the next perk is going to be Auto Dedic. So this perk is you start the trial with a minus 25% progression penalty for skill checks to heal survivors. For every successful skill check completed while healing a survivor, you gain a token of up to a maximum of 3, 4, or 5, depending on your tier of your perk. Each token grants a 15% plus bonus progression for a successful skill check while healing survivors. Great skill checks cannot be performed while using this, and you cannot use this perk while a medkit. This perk doesn't affect it when you're using a medkit to heal. So this is a little bit of a different perk. It's more of something you definitely need to experiment with, but for now, going to leave this one in the F tier. Alrighty, so I will come back to this perk for now. Moving on, of course. The next perk we'll talk about is going to be Balanced Landing. So Balanced Landing is an amazing and a very exceptional perk. It uses the status effect Exhausted, however, which definitely comes into line, say, with Adrenaline. There's going to be quite a few other perks out there. So this perk in particular, I'm going to put into probably C or B. Probably going to leave it in B actually for now. It's an amazing perk. So it's going to reduce stagger duration by 75%, which is a lot. So when you land, you're going to stagger 75% less, which is quite a lot. It also suppresses any sort of grunts when you fall, so the killer won't hear that. So if the killer's not actually chasing you, he won't hear those grunts of you falling. Upon landing, of course, you break into a sprint of 150% movement speed for 3 seconds. So Tier 1, 2, and 3 changes the exhausted status effect from 60 to 50 or to 40 seconds. Overall, it's a very great perk. Of course, it's very situational. You can only use it from a height. So, however, of course, it's a perk that you can definitely use throughout the game. It's not something that you only get at the end game, for an example like Adrenaline. So, yeah. Alrighty, so moving on, we will come back with these other perks. They're definitely the more newer ones. Haven't actually been able to experiment with them, and I will do a little more research towards the end, and I will place them. But moving on, so we got Bite the Bullet. So Bite the Bullet is definitely going to be a great perk, of course. So pain hurts you as much as anyone, but you would prefer others do not know that. So when healing yourself or another survivor, grunts of pain and all noises related to the healing action are suppressed. So pretty much reading that description and hearing that, of course, you can instantly tell that this perk is going to be very great for healing survivors. Failed healing skill checks do not trigger a loud noise notification and only apply a regression penalty of depending on 3, 2 or 1% depending on your tier. So it's definitely a very great perk. Overall, gonna put this into B tier. Alrighty, so the next one we're going to have is Blast Mine. So pretty much what this perk is, after repairing generators for a total of 66%, Blast Mine activates, and it states that after repairing a generator for at least 3 seconds, press the ability button to install a trap, which stays active for 35, 40 or 45 seconds depending on the tier, and the aura of trap generators are revealed in yellow to all survivors. And when the killer damages a trapped generator, the trap explodes, stunning them and blinding anyone nearby. So it's a very good perk in terms of getting out or escaping. For an example, some of the killers can actually get the perk where if you hook a survivor, you end up you can damage a generator for 25%. It's a very, very popular killer perk. It's a very great killer perk as well. Would highly rate that perk maybe either A tier or S tier. So this perk actually kind of is essentially a counter. So for now, gonna put this perk into C tier. Alrighty, so Blood Pact. When you are the Obsession injured, you both see each other's auras. After healing the Obsession or being healed by the Obsession, you both gain the haste status effect, moving at an increased speed of depending on 5, 6 or 7 seconds until you're no longer within 16 meters of each other. So this is a very great perk in terms of being stacked with a survivor. So I'm going to put this perk specifically in tier C. The reason for that is you need to be stacked to benefit from this. But yeah, other than that, it's not a bad perk by any means. But yeah, moving on. So we have the next perk of Boil Over. So Boil Over is a little bit of a nifty one. Haven't experimented with this perk too much, of course, but basically it's saying that while being carried by the killer, the following effects apply, which is increases the intensity of the struggle effects on the killer from your wiggling by 50, 75 or 100%. Obscures the auras of all hooks from the killer's aura reading abilities within 16 meters of your pickup location. So if the killer picks you up, he won't be able to see any sort of hooks that are within 16 meters, which is quite a lot. So that means he's going to have to go possibly to another hook if he can't see those ones that are in close proximity. So it allows you to basically have a higher chance of being able to wiggle out and getting away. And of course, each time the killer drops from great heights, your wiggle meter fills by a 25% upon landing. So if he's falling from a building and you're wiggling, your wiggle meter fills by 25% when he lands, which is definitely decent. So for now, gonna put this perk in probably D. Could probably put it in C, but we'll see what happens. But yeah. Alrighty, so next one's gonna be Bond. Bond's definitely a decent perk. Bond just gives you the aura reading ability where the auras of all survivors within 20, 28 or 36 meters of your location are revealed to you. So depending on tier 1, 2 or 3, tier 3 being 36 meters, so it's definitely a good perk in terms of knowledge and stuff for where your teammates are at if they're in a close proximity. But for now, probably going to put this perk into... I'll just put it into D for now. Alrighty, next perk. This is definitely a very, very, very good perk. So we've got Boone Circle of Healing. So straight away going to put this into either A or S tier. Might put it into A tier for now and possibly change later, but yeah, it's a very, 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 very good perk. So if you don't actually know what this perk does, so it's a very great perk for healing, so you don't need to have any sort of med kit, but basically this boon is going to allow you to press and hold the active ability button near a dull or hex totem to bless it and create a boon totem. So you do actually in fact need a totem to be able to use this perk, so that's why I'm going to put this perk probably in A, as it does rely on a totem. Anyways, a soft chime brings out within a radius of 24 meters, so within the 24 meters you can use or benefit from this perk. And that, of course, is any survivor, not just the person using the perk. And it says survivors inside the boon's totem range benefit from the following effects, which is 90, 95, or 100% bonus to all healing speeds, and unlocks the self-care ability, allowing to self-heal without needing a medkit at 50% of the normal speed. Also benefits from the healing speed bonus, boosting the self-healing speed to 95, 97.5, or 100%. So, sorry about that. So this perk is definitely great. So I would probably put it at A because it relies on a totem, of course. For the most part, of course, this actually is a very beneficial perk because any survivor can actually see where this totem is across the map. So if they actually needed to be healed, they can easily run over. If they don't have a med kit or if they don't have self-care themselves, they can easily run to this totem and actually heal up. So it's definitely a very beneficial perk for your whole entire team. But of course, it can overlap with other perks. For an example, if teammates are running self-care, or if teammates are already using a med kit, then at that point, your team isn't going to really benefit that much from this perk. But yeah, so the next perk, Boone Exponential. So this perk itself, haven't had too much experience with it, but it does say you're going to place this boon onto a totem once again. It's going to rely on the totem itself, and survivors inside this totem range is going to benefit from a 90, 95, or 100% bonus to the recovery speed, and unlocks the self-recovery ability, allowing you to fully recover from the dying state. So this is definitely a good perk by all means, but I'm actually going to probably put this into D tier. So the reason for this is because it's a great perk on the page itself. It sounds amazing, but the chances of you actually having a boon totem up, and then also being on the ground, not having the killer actually pick you up, it's very, very unlikely. So, however, of course, it's a great perk that if towards the end game, it's going to be like Adrenaline, where it's an end game situation where if there's a killer who's killing you, he's downed you, and then he's going to go chase after one or two more survivors and try and down them. You can recover and get back up within that time. So it's a great perk, but it's more of an end game situation that I can see, as the killer will 9 times out of 10 just hook you throughout the game. But yeah. Alrighty, so next perk is going to be, I don't think we've actually got it here, which is kind of a bit of a surprise. I think I might have missed it. So this one here is actually Shadow Step, sorry. And then the other one was Exponential, but that's okay. So this perk, the next perk, Borrow Time. Without a doubt, gonna chuck this in S tier. So for anyone who doesn't know what Borrow Time does, it's an amazing perk. So depending on tier 1, 2, or 3, changes how long the endurance status effect, which is applied to a survivor when they get unhooked. Depending on the tier, of course, it goes from 8, 10, or 12 seconds. So basically, if I have a friend of mine who comes up and unhooks me, I will get this status effect called Endurance, which will last for either 8, 10, or 12 seconds, and I can take a hit from the killer without actually taking any sort of damage from him. So it's a very great perk for throughout the whole entire game, but also very end game. You can do a lot with this perk. So for an example, if my survivor's coming up to me and he's been injured once and he comes to unhook me, so if he actually runs up and unhooks me and he's injured, I can actually take a free hit for him without actually having any sort of consequence for him or myself, of course, as well. So it's a very great perk. It's a very great perk throughout the whole entire game, not just the start or finished, throughout the whole entire game. So if, of course, you haven't actually tried this perk, would really suggest it. If you haven't actually played Killer as well, this perk's going to catch you off guard a lot of the time, where you've just got to assume that Survivor's probably running it because you don't actually know that they've actually got this perk on and have unhooked someone until you've gone to hit them, and then they actually don't take any sort of damage from it. So it does catch killers off guard, so yeah, would 100% suggest if you haven't used it yet. Alrighty, so the next one's going to be Botany Knowledge. So Botany Knowledge is, it's not a bad perk by any means, but definitely not a great perk. There's definitely a lot of other perks out there that are going to be much better, but for now, probably going to put this in either F or D tier. I'm just going to sit in F tier for now, but all this perk does is increase healing speeds as well as the efficiency of medkits by 11, 22 or 33% depending on the tier on it. So on book doesn't sound horrible, but there's just, unfortunately, there's a lot of other perks out there that are going to be a lot better than this. I might sit in D, but yeah. So just going to have a drink. Alrighty, next perk, guys, is going to be Breakdown, which will be this one here, the third one. So Breakdown itself is each time you are unhooked or unhook yourself, the hook breaks and the killer's aura is revealed to you for 4, 5 or 6 seconds. So this on paper sounds like a really great perk in terms of getting an escape, because you can see the killer's aura for a certain amount of time if you unhook yourself or if someone unhooks you. So that means you know what direction you need to run. The only problem with this perk though is actually never mind. So I just actually was misreading this. So another part of this perk is a hook broken by the breakdown takes 180 seconds to respawn. So that's actually 3 minutes, which is a lot of time within the game for that one hook to be gone. So I'm probably going to actually put this perk into C tier. But yeah, we'll definitely need to experiment more with this perk. I can definitely see it being a very utilized or a very amazing perk throughout the game. Alrighty, so we got Breakout for the next perk, guys. So you kick into high gear when someone is in trouble, inspiring them to overcome any obstacle. When within 6 meters of a carried survivor, you gain the haste status effect, which is increasing your movement speed, depending on the tier, 5, 6 or 7%. And the carried survivor's wiggling speed is increased by 20%. So on book, this seems like an okay perk. Going to put in C tier though. So this is a very useful perk when it comes to just stacking, kind of like the Blood Pact perk itself. So could probably actually put this down into D tier for now, but overall you can definitely see it being quite a decent perk. So the next perk is going to be Buckle Up. So Buckle Up is you can determine the recovery progress of dying survivors by the intensity of their aura at a distance of 48 meters away. When healing another survivor from the dying state to the injured state, the killer's aura is revealed to the both of you for 6, 8 or 10 seconds. So it's probably not going to be a perk that I will really main or use a lot. I can definitely see though, however, being very useful throughout the whole entire game, of course. So I'm going to put this perk into probably C tier. Alrighty, so the next perk, Built to Last, very amazing perk. I'm going to put this into A tier. The reason why this perk is really great is actually because when you hide inside a locker for 14, 13 or 12 seconds, depending on the tier of it, while carrying a depleted item, will replenish its charges to 99%. Each use of Built to Last reduces this percentage by 33% though. So the reason why this perk is really great is you can imagine how quickly a flashlight will be consumed, especially one that goes for 8 seconds. So for an example, you can deplete this flashlight. At that point, you may as well drop it because there's not much use. But you've got built to last the perk on, so you can easily just go hide inside a locker for the required amount of seconds, and that will basically replenish the charges on the item, and you can get quite a lot of free charges and a lot of replenishes on this item, so you can use this item a lot more throughout the game. So yeah, an amazing perk by all means. Alrighty, so Calm Spirit. So animals seem to trust you as often stay calm in your presence. Lowers the odds of alerting nearby crows by 80, 90 or 100%, and suppresses the urge to scream from pain at all times. So you can definitely see that when it comes to the killer getting free intel throughout the game, even if he's not nearby and even if he doesn't know where you are, he's going to get all this free intel. But with Calm Spirit itself, it's going to allow you to reduce the amount of intel that he gets throughout the game. So I'm going to put this perk into D tier. It's definitely not a bad perk by all means, but just for where the other ones are sitting, I'm just going to put this in a D. Alrighty, so the next one, we do in fact actually have this third perk here. I haven't actually been fortunate enough to see what it does, but that's okay. But the next perk is going to be Corrective Action. Actually, sorry, Claire Revoyance. So, this perk in particular is going to be coming off a totem again. So it's all about when you cleanse a totem. Um, it's going to reveal the auras of the exiting gate switches, generators, hooks, chests, and the hatch within 64 meters of for 8, 9, or 10 seconds. So getting a lot of intel from this perk itself, this is something you'll benefit from if you want to know more about where, things like that are going to be throughout the game. So whether that's the exit gates, generators, hooks, chests, or the hatch, this is definitely something you can utilize and use this perk a lot to get more, so you understand where more things are throughout the map itself. Gonna put this in C, however. Could easily lower this perk, but I would not put it any higher than C though. Alrighty, so there's a few more perks that we're coming across that we don't actually know too much about, but that's okay. We'll do more research towards the end, of course, and I will then add them up. Sorry, throat's getting a bit sore and we've got quite a lot of perks going on. So the next one's going to be Counterforce, which is you cleanse totems 20% faster, and you gain another stackable 20% cleansing speed bonus per cleanse totem. After cleansing a totem, the aura of the totem farthest from you is revealed to you for 2, 3, or 4 seconds. So this is really good for when the killer in particular is going to be using hex perks where he's got the totems itself. So this is a very great perk in terms of countering that perk. So for this point, I'm going to put this perk in C, because there is going to be games where the killers, of course, aren't running them. Alrighty, so dance with me. When performing a rush action to vault a window or leave a locker, you will not leave any scratch marks for the next 3 seconds. And of course, the cooldown for the tier will change this from 60, 50, or 40 seconds. So this perk itself, on book, it's going to be a great perk. Kind of works a lot like a lightweight where it's going to reduce those scratch marks. There's going to be a lot of other stuff, of course, that you can use over this. Definitely not a bad perk by all means, of course. But for now, I'm probably going to put this into D tier. And I might probably put this one down here and Calm Spirit down here. Alrighty, my favourite perk is coming up. So, however though, we do in fact have a Dark Sense. So, if I'm not mistaken, this should be Dark Sense. Yep. So, Dark Sense is actually one of my favourite perks when I was actually playing the game at the start. Because it's a perk that anyone can get. It's an amazing perk when you don't have anything else, and it's really, really great in terms of knowledge and stuff, or intel throughout the game. So, especially if you're a heavy gen um, completion type of person. So, each time you complete a generator, or each time a generator is completed, sorry, the aura of the killer is revealed to you for 5 seconds. And depending on your tier, 1, 2, or 3 will change on the last generator's completion. The aura of the killer is going to be revealed to you for 5, 7, or 10 seconds. So, by all means, it's actually a very, very great perk. Hands down, sorry, very, very great perk. So, to me personally, because I've used it quite a lot and I've actually gained a lot from this perk itself, I'm actually going to put this perk into B tier. Could put it into C, but I wouldn't put it any higher though. Alrighty, so the next perk, been looking forward to this one for a bit. Straight away going to put this into S tier without any sort of hesitation. I wouldn't even put it at A or lower, instantly going to put it in S tier. The reason for this is this perk is amazing. So the only thing with this perk that you need to be aware of is it does use the exhausted status effect. Depending on the tier 1, 2 or 3 changes how long that cooldown is reduced to, but pretty much when you're injured, you can actually dash forward quickly to avoid damage, and it's through using a active ability button, which is going to be keybinded depending on what console or platform you're playing on. But the reason why this perk is really, really great is because if you're injured and the killer's gaining a lot of meters on you and the pallet itself is a few meters ahead of you but you can't get to it, it's very, very simple for you to be able to use this ability, dash forward, and then be able to drop the pallet, and as well, of course, it's much more of a safer perk to use within your pursuits, because a lot of the time the killer will eventually catch up to you. He will end up injuring you, and it's a very easy perk to use to actually just instantly dash forward and gain more space. So yeah, 100% S tier. It's an amazing perk. So the next perk, sorry, will be Deception. So I've actually heard a lot of funny things with this perk, and I've seen a lot of funny things, but this perk itself is going to be regarding lockers in particular. And it's basically you're going to interact with a locker while holding the sprint button to trigger a loud noise notification for the killer at your location instead of entering the locker. So the reason why this perk is really great is because it's going to actually, as it's titled in the name, it's going to create a deception with the locker itself, and once you do that notification, once you click onto the locker, you won't leave any scratch marks or pools of blood for the next 3 seconds. And depending on the tier, that will reduce how often you can use this, so 60, 50 or 40 seconds. So I would probably put this perk into C tier or D tier. It's something that you can use quite often with the pursuits. Obviously it's something that if you don't actually use this perk with the lockers, getting that deception out with a loud noise alert, you're not going to benefit much from it. So if you're not a person who, is going to use these lockers much, it's probably going to sit more down towards D or F. But for someone who might use this perk a lot and really focus around their build with it, they're actually going to be able to sit this perk much higher. Alrighty. So, Decisive Strike.